It's me, Andrew Gilliland here. It's a little early in the morning. I'm too fucking tall. Maybe if I stand back a little bit. Um, Today's episode of Badass Movie Time, I'm gonna be talking about giant monster movies, mostly Godzilla. Godzilla is probably my favorite. Um, Definitely my favorite. One of my favorite Japanese series, and then I'm also a big King Kong fan. So let's dive right in. Let's get this started. So Toho does Godzilla. Um, One of my first Toho movies that I really liked. I saw it when I was 5. I remember watching the original Godzilla, and then I watched this movie with my grandpa. I think it might have been on Monster Vision, or it was on TNT or something. But it was called Frankenstein Conquers the World. This movie is freaking bizarre and hilarious and great. Um, so this is my first favorite giant monster movie, other than King Kong. Um, and then a year later, my Uncle Scott gave my dad a VHS from when they were kids, and there was a movie called War of the Gargantuas. I was so excited for this DVD set because I think around the same time I saw Frankenstein Conquers the World, I also saw Rodan. I saw Rodan, the original Godzilla, and Frankenstein Conquers the World. Frankenstein Conquers the World stuck with me because it's such a bizarre movie. But when I saw War of the Gargantuas is probably my favorite Japanese giant monster movie. War of the Gargantuas is like Frankenstein, the giant Frankenstein from Frankenstein Conquers the World. Some of his skin fell off in the ocean, and it turned into two monsters. So War of the Gargantuas is these two monsters fighting. The gold one's good, the green one's bad. He eats people and spits out their clothes. Hilarious. Um, this DVD is really cool because it has a awesome documentary on it, and the documentary is just explaining all the detail and the work that goes into a Godzilla film. A lot of people are like, Andrew, you're 30. Why do you still like Godzilla? They're not that great. They are. There's a lot of craftsmanship and a lot of work that goes into them. And I'm a practical effects guy. So Godzilla is huge on practical effects. The cities are built by hand. A lot of work and detail goes into the monsters. And it's a really cool art form in making a kaiju film. So this documentary kind of illustrates that. But this is one of my favorite DVDs. So War of the Gargantuas is amazing. It's between Godzilla, King Kong, and the Gargantuas, tattoo wise, maybe all three. We'll see one day. So as mentioned, I've been a fan of King Kong for a long time. I don't know when I first saw the original King Kong. It's a masterpiece. Most of you have probably seen King Kong. Great stuff. The original King Kong is fantastic. Son of Kong I saw when I was 7, and I remember seeing that because, spoiler alert, the baby Kong dies at the end. Cried like a little baby. So I got that recently. I never had King Kong on DVD, and because I've seen it so many times, but I watched it about 2 or 3 years ago. That movie's so amazing, man. How do you top King Kong? Dino De Laurentiis. There's a remake, 1978, I think, 75. There's a remake of King Kong, and they took Godzilla, the concept of putting a man in a suit, and they made King Kong. They had a guy in a suit. But I'm not a big fan of that movie. It's not bad, but there's a follow-up to that, and it's called King Kong Lives. This movie is amazing. It's so good. Possibly my favorite King Kong movie. I saw this at a really young age. I saw this before possibly even King Kong. This might have been my first Kong movie. Was King Kong Lives. And it's a bizarre movie, man. It's King Kong survived falling off the World Trade Center. They give him a heart transplant, and then they find a female Kong, and the two of them are in love. So King Kong busts out of wherever they're holding him. He's like in a coma for 10 years, and so good, man. This is an '80s King Kong movie, and it is fantastic. Possibly one of my favorite movies out of the Kong movies. And then most recently, I got Kong Skull Island. Very fun movie. I'm happy that this legendary company is doing these giant monster movies. I don't have the. We're gonna go through my Godzilla movie. I have a huge Godzilla. I'm trying to collect all the Godzillas. Something I've been working on since I was like 18. Um, they're doing more though. I don't have the new legendary Godzilla, but they're gonna do all the monsters attack, and then they're gonna do a new King Kong versus Godzilla, which is badass. So, kind of branching into the Godzilla movies, I also have King Kong Escapes, which is another Toho movie. Freaking weird ass movie. Okay, so my Godzilla series is good. I got a good chunk of the Godzilla series now. I got the Godzilla collection. Let's see what we got in here. We got Godzilla. And then we have them. I have the Japanese and then the American Godzilla, the original Godzilla. And then we have Godzilla Raids Again, Mothra versus Godzilla, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, Invasion of the Astro Monster, All Monsters Attack, and Terror of Mechagodzilla. Terror of Mechagodzilla is kind of a rehash of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which I remember watching Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I think we rented it from Blockbuster on VHS back when I was a little kid. That's a really hard DVD to get nowadays. I would like to see that again as an adult, but part of me is like, I could probably make my own like bootleg of it, but I'm just kind of holding out, you know. Maybe one day I will think Terror of Godzilla and Terror of Godzilla and Son of Godzilla are really hard to come by. I don't have all of these, by the way, but that's a good chunk of the original. There's 3 eras of Godzilla, and I'll fuck it up. There's like, they go off the Japanese emperor's names of the time. I got the later ones better memorized, but there's 3 eras. That's the first era. And then we got King Kong versus Godzilla on Blu-ray, which this is my most recent pickup. This came out in 1965, I think. Whatever. Great movie. Great movie. So I'm looking forward to Legendary's take on this. This is good stuff. This might be the first colored Godzilla. I think this is the first Godzilla movie that was done in color. You can correct me if I'm incorrect on that. So that's it for the original era. And then my personal favorite, is the Godzilla movies that came out in the 90s. And that started with, I think, Godzilla 85. I don't have Godzilla 85 yet. You can get that, though. That's obtainable. So Godzilla started out as a decent, like, really well-made horror movie. It kind of got really silly towards the end of that initial era. When we went into the 70s and stuff, it got really bizarre. And I don't have a lot of the more bizarre, like, 70s Godzillas. I kind of skipped all that, which I want to go back and get more of it. Like, you know, Jet Jaguar or whatever, the giant robot thing and whatever. But, so Miramax had the rights when, in the 80s, they got Godzilla versus Biollante, which is a great movie. This is the follow-up to Godzilla 85. This is after they reinitiated the series the second time. This is like the second series, or second era. I didn't see this until I was grown. But Godzilla definitely blew up. This was the 80s too. After that, it blew up in America, especially by the time my 9th birthday came around. I got all Godzilla stuff. I got Godzilla action figures, all this cool Godzilla stuff that I still have to this day. We got Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. and Mothra. These aren't as great as these. These are the best, man. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla and Godzilla versus Destroya these are so good. These are probably my favorite Godzilla movies. They kind of go together. They fucking destroy Godzilla at the end, hence Destroya. But they just go together. They're so great. The whole series kind of runs together by this point, which is nice. TriStar did those. So 1998. By the time 1988 came around, Destroya had killed Godzilla. Godzilla had a meltdown at the end of that movie. Spoiler alert. So America did a Godzilla movie, and I believe Emmerich, the guy who did Independence Day, he was chosen to direct the American Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. I love this movie. I even have a Taco Bell toy that I've had my whole life from this movie. It's so good. It's not good, but it's so good. Very CGI. Kind of took everything that I loved about Godzilla and kind of fucked it up. So the new legendary Godzilla, the new American Godzilla that came out a couple years ago, is so much better than this film. But my grandpa took me to see this in the theaters, so I have a warm spot for this. I remember all the promotion and everything. This was a big deal when this first came out. There's a cartoon. It's a great movie, but not. It's a good bad movie, I guess. There's all these really cool Godzilla games that come out every couple of years. They're usually fighting games. This was the one I played the most on the Xbox. I remember playing this in the dorms a lot. My friends would be like, dude, I don't want to play Godzilla. But there's one on the GameCube that was... I think the GameCube one is the same as this one. But more recently, on the PS3, there's a new Godzilla game. I keep looking at it, but I'm like, I know it's just going to be the same fucking game over again. So... 90s Godzilla ended, right? So then we go into the Millennium era. This is the first era. This is the third era of Godzilla films. And in this era, each film in the movie it's not a continuous series like the 90s era. It's a different story each movie. So I got this thing at Walmart. This is a lot of the 90s stuff. What did I get that was special from this? I owned all of these movies already. There's some extra Mothra movies on here. But I got this for the volume 2, really. Because I owned none of the Millennium era. I'm not a big fan of the Millennium era, but there's some good stuff in there. It started with Godzilla 2000. Japan was like, yo, this American Godzilla is fucked up. So they did Godzilla 2000, which is a really cool movie. And then... Oh, it gave me Mechagodzilla 2, which was cool. That was 90s. But my favorite out of all of these, I really didn't like Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and I didn't like Godzilla Tokyo SOS. I think those are the only two in this series that kind of go together. I rented those from Blockbuster when I was like 18. I was just like, ugh, these aren't good. But Godzilla versus Megaguirus. It's like Godzilla fighting these weird bug things. Fantastic movie. So good. That's probably my favorite out of the Millennium stuff. But the only thing I had before I got this was Godzilla Final Wars. This came out in 2004, I think, 2005. And this movie is fucking bizarre. And the cool thing about Godzilla movies is they'll have all the monsters. This is Godzilla fighting like everything pretty much. And I think the dude who directed Versus directed this. I might be wrong on that. I think it's the guy who did Hiroki the Goblin. Hiroko the Goblin. Really cool director from Japan that I like a lot. Did this. This is one of my favorite movies. It's so fucking bizarre. And that was like one of the last Godzilla movies I bought until I got that pack recently. But until the fourth era has started. And the guy who does Evangelion directed this movie. This movie is amazing. This is the end of the Godzilla episode. I got more coming. I'll maybe update you guys eventually on the Godzilla collection. I think there's 31 movies, including American. and I'm at like 20 something. So I only have like a handful of movies left to get, and I'll have every Godzilla movie ever made, which would be cool, but difficult because there's movies that I are unattainable unless I want to spend hundreds of dollars, and that goes against everything that I stand for in movie collecting. I don't spend. It's rare that I'll spend more than $10 on a DVD. Like most of these movies, I got for pretty cheap. I can justify $10 because that's how much I'd go spend at a theater, or, I spend $60 a month on my. People who pirate movies think they're so clever, and it's like you're still spending a fucking ass load of money on your internet. So plus you don't have these cool DVDs with all the features and everything. But anyways, dude from Evangelion recently directed Shin Godzilla. This movie is awesome. It was so good. It brought me back to that moment when I first saw, Frankenstein Conquers the World and Rodan in the original Godzilla. It brought me back to that. And I love how fast paced it is. It's just quick shots. People trying to figure out what the fuck do we do about this situation. This is a bad situation. We gotta take care of this weird monster. There's a scene before Godzilla becomes Godzilla, he's like this weird tadpole thing that comes out of the ocean. He's like crazy eyes, googly eyes, and he's crawling through a city and everybody's like freaking out. So good and bizarre and great. I'm really happy I picked this up. Tell me, what is your favorite Godzilla movie? This actually might be my new favorite in the whole series. Of course, the original is fantastic. Like I said, I really like Godzilla Final Wars. I like Godzilla versus Megaguirus. And then it's just Godzilla versus Destroya, man. I saw that shit on TV when I was like 9 or 10. I was like, Godzilla dies? What? Godzilla can't die? Tripped me out, man. I got some Godzilla posters over here I could show you guys. Well, I guess I pull the camera. Ain't gonna make it. There's a Space Godzilla poster, and then I have a really cool Ghidorah 90s Godzilla posters because they had epic artwork on them. Wouldn't mind getting more of those one day. So, there's also a huge a lot of dudes my age collecting the toys. The toys are cool. Like I said, there's a lot of work that goes into creating these monsters, and so there's a whole. It's fun to look them up on YouTube because I don't collect a lot of toys anymore. Most of my stuff is from when I was a kid, but there's just dudes who just thousands of dollars into these little rubber monsters, and it's cool. I think it's cool. So it's fun to look it up. I mean, I don't know if any of you want to start collecting Godzilla monsters, but there's dudes on YouTube with huge collections. So that's my giant monster movie collection, guys. Some other notable films in the collection. I think I have Cloverfield. If I don't, Cloverfield's really good regardless. The Host, which is a Korean giant monster movie. Usually when Koreans do something, it's awesome. They did their giant monster movie. Like I mentioned a couple episodes ago, Train to Busan. They did a vampire movie, The Thirst, Old Boy. Almost every Korean film I've bothered to watch, I've really enjoyed. I think the Koreans did that. There's a movie with a gorilla who plays baseball. That might be Japanese though. It's amazing though. All right, friends, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys all next week.